Hello, welcome to the Polyglot Files. My name is Michael and today we're doing another episode of Languages of the World! Each video in this series looks at a different country on the planet and explores the languages spoken there. Last week we focused on South Africa and its 11 official languages, but today we're looking at a country with no official language, the United Kingdom. Okay, so that statement is more or less up for debate. There is a de facto official language of the United Kingdom, that language being English, but technically the UK is one of the only 8 nations on Earth not to have an official language. Despite that, there are 8 native languages spoken in the United Kingdom. 2 of them are West Germanic languages, 4 of them are Celtic languages, and 2 of them are what we call mixed languages. Instead of looking at these languages alphabetically, let's just address the elephant in the room. The most spoken language, and arguably the unofficial official language of the United Kingdom, is English. It is spoken by 60 million people, or 97% of the United Kingdom's population, and it is a West Germanic language. English's story begins in the 5th century CE, when the Germanic peoples crossed the English Channel, invaded, and settled in what is the modern-day United Kingdom. Initially, Celtic languages were spoken in the United Kingdom, and they had been spoken there for centuries, but before long, English began to displace many of the Celtic languages. Over the centuries, English would be influenced by the Scandinavian languages, thanks to the invasions from the Vikings, and also the French language, thanks to the Norman conquest of 1066. In fact, French remained the language of the upper class for almost 300 years in the United Kingdom, and today it is estimated that over 45% of English words have a French origin. Fast forward to the modern day, and English is the second most spoken language when you combine native speakers and second language speakers. The second language spoken in the UK is also a language that is very closely related to English, and it is called Scots, or Lallans, as it is known by its speakers. Scots is a West Germanic language spoken by 2 million people in the United Kingdom. And Scots is, in fact, English's closest linguistic relative. Yeah, I know. I previously said that Dutch and Afrikaans were English's closest linguistic relative, and then people pointed out that Frisian was actually English's closest linguistic relative, but I swear, I'm not wrong this time. Or am I? Well, yes and no. Since there is no universal way to decide whether something is a language or a dialect, Scots can either be seen as a language that is really close to English, or it can be seen as a dialect of English. In fact, Scots evolved from English in the 15th century, and it is spoken today in Scotland as well as parts of Northern Ireland. While the level of mutual intelligibility between Scots and English is pretty high, one could argue that there are enough differences between the two languages for Scots to be deemed its own language. For example, let's look at the following Scots sentence taken from omniglot.com. While there is considerable overlap between English and Scots, there are quite a few words where the Scots word looks completely different than the English word. Furthermore, these instances of mutual unintelligibility are much more frequent in spoken Scots. And it's not just the words that are different. Scots and English also differ in their grammar. In fact, in verb morphology, Scots retains the letter S in all persons in all numbers, whereas in English, we only use the letter S when we're talking about the third person singular. The third most spoken language in the United Kingdom is also our first Celtic language. Welsh, or Cymraeg, is spoken by 700,000 people in Wales. It appeared in the 6th century CE, and it grew out of what was known as Common Brittonic, or British, a language spoken in the UK during ancient times. Welsh is interesting in the sense that it has quite a few sounds that are not only non-existent in English, but are pretty rare in most European languages. For example, Welsh has a voiceless alveolar lateral fricative, a sound that is mostly found in Native American languages or African languages like Zulu. Furthermore, Welsh, like most of the Celtic languages, follows a verb-subject-object word order. For example, the sentence shown means Gwen is miserable. However, we get a literal word translation of is Gwen miserable, which kind of seems like the way we ask questions in English, but that's actually just the standard declarative way to say something in Welsh. Our next 2 languages of the United Kingdom are also Celtic languages. Irish, also known as Gaelic, and Scottish Gaelic are sister languages that evolved out of Old Irish. Even though they have a common ancestor, these 2 languages are not completely mutually intelligible. For our purposes, we're looking at Ulster Irish, which is the Irish language spoken in Northern Ireland in the United Kingdom. For example, let's look at the phrase, "How are you?" in the two languages. While we can see that the Irish translation and the Scottish Gaelic translation are pretty similar, there are also sizable differences between the two. Like Welsh, these two languages also have a verb, subject, object word order, and there are two grammatical genders. Furthermore, these two languages also have what is linguistically referred to as consonant mutations. This means that the initial consonant sound of a word changes or softens when it is preceded by another word, such as a determiner or an adverb or a preposition. For example, if we look at the IPA for the word woman in Irish, we see that the B sound softens into a V sound. In writing, that consonant softening is shown by an H. Our last Celtic language, Cornish, is spoken by 3,500 speakers in Cornwall, in southwestern England. It too evolved out of Brittonic, like Welsh did. Cornish is very closely related to Breton, a language spoken in the Brittany region of France. Like the other Celtic languages, Cornish has a verb, subject, object word order, as well as two grammatical genders. While Cornish has 3,500 speakers, UNESCO has also deemed the language to be critically endangered. Our last two languages that are native to the United Kingdom are what are called mixed languages. A mixed language is the result of two source languages coming together and having a new language. It's sort of like a daughter language, but unlike a regular daughter language, this time, it takes two to tango. The first mixed language spoken in the UK is called Shelta, and even though some estimates put the speakers at almost 1 million people, the exact figure is not known. In fact, Shelta is the language of Irish travellers, a semi-nomadic group of people who use Shelta as a secret language, used only by those in their community. As such, not much is known about Shelta, other than the fact that it is a mix between Irish and English, and even then, most of its borrowings are Irish or English slang. The second mixed language in the UK is Angloromani. Like its name suggests, it is a mixture between English and the Romani language. The Romani language itself is a language spoken by the Romani peoples, who can trace their ethnicity back all the way to the Indian subcontinent, but are numerous throughout Europe today. Interestingly, Anglo-Romani allows for a subject, verb, object word order, as well as a verb, subject, object word order. Lastly, aside from the 8 languages spoken natively in the United Kingdom, there are also a number of immigrant languages. For example, there are 546,000 Polish speakers in the United Kingdom. Further, there are 273,000 Punjabi speakers, as well as 263,000 Urdu speakers. This has been the second episode of Languages of the World! Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as share this video with your friends, because sharing is caring, right? Thanks for watching the Polyglot Files. See you next time!